You're listening to the Greeks Gridiron, live with Ethan Hristodoulou.
Welcome back, everybody, to more of the Greeks Gridiron. I am Ethan Hristodoulou, and today is the big day before the big day as the NFL has begun releasing games for the 2023 schedule. They went with all the international games and big holiday games today, and tomorrow we will get the full release where you'll start to see all the teams on social media do battle as they try to one-up each other on releasing their schedule. And it's kind of become like the social media team Super Bowl with the way they do things. I don't know if you've ever followed along with that, but Twitter and Instagram are quite the place to be when you're following the NFL teams on schedule release day. So if you're not, I would definitely recommend checking them out tomorrow because it's quite an experience, unlike anything I've ever seen before regarding a schedule release. But without further ado, we're going to dive right in. I'll go over all the games that you give my thoughts and opinions on all of them. So I want to hear from you all as well. Make sure you comment down below what games you excited for. Any of these games leave you scratching your head. There is one or two that I'm kind of looking at and kind of questioning. So we'll dive into those a little bit more into detail when we get to them. But starting off, we'll go over the international games first. We're basically going in order of when these games are actually going to happen, since that was kind of how the NFL released them. Starting off with the international games, though, first one, and this is marking history here for the Jaguars, and we'll get into that in a second here, but the Jaguars will be hosting the Atlanta Falcons from Wembley Stadium at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time on October 1st. You'll be able to catch this one on ESPN+. If you don't know where Wembley is, it is in London in the UK. So the Jaguars have basically become like London's home team in a way. And I know that the rumors have always kind of swirled that at some point they might get moved over there. Don't necessarily know how positive that's going to be or like the likelihood of that, but I will say that seeing the Jaguars in London, not really surprising to me. It almost feels like it is their second home at this point, as they have been going there and having a very sizable amount of fanfare while in London compared to every other team and all these other international games they've had. Love to see it. The Falcons being their opponent, a little bit of an interesting one to me. I don't necessarily know, because I know that like all the teams got, designated like home places around, the world in various locations for these international games. Now, I don't know if the Falcons look at London as one of them. Maybe it's just the opponent matchup, but it should be intriguing because Desmond Ridder is going to be taking over as quarterback one, and it's going to be his team going into this season. You have a lot of intrigue with Bijan Robinson now in the backfield, and of course, you have yourself a pair of good receivers with London, and you also have on top of that Kyle Pitts as well. So there's a lot to look at, and I'm really intrigued about this. Trevor Lawrence in year two with Doug Peterson and the system that they've got brewing over there. Really fun game to watch. Following the next week, the Jaguars become the first team to have it might as well be a host, but to have back-to-back games in London as they take on the Buffalo Bills, who are hosting them at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, also in the UK in London. The game will be at 9:30. This is the following week, so it's on October 8th, and you'll be able to catch this one on NFL Network. Now, I don't necessarily know the case regarding the ESPN Plus game. I'm assuming it's exclusive to ESPN Plus, but all the NFL Network games, if you're somebody who does not have the NFL Network, if you have NFL Plus, you are able to watch those international games. So any game that's on, or at least it was the case last year. I don't know if that's going to be the case this year, but at least last year, going off of what they did, you were able to watch them if you had NFL Plus. So if you're someone who doesn't have the NFL Network, there is potentially still a way for you to view this game. And I would assume that if it's on the NFL Network, they're going to pair it up and put it on Plus as well. Otherwise, you're kind of taking away from the point of having NFL Plus, because that was kind of a perk of signing up last year to having it. But Jaguars and Bills, exciting matchup. Obviously, the Josh Allen-led Buffalo Bills going up against the Trevor Lawrence-led Jacksonville Jaguars. This is a more intriguing matchup as the Jaguars start to kind of find their footing in the AFC now, and they kind of feel like the clear-cut favorite in the AFC South at the moment. And you have the Bills, obviously, who have quite a job cut out for them trying to win themselves the AFC East now that Aaron Rodgers is in there over at New York. So I'm sure that this will be a pretty important matchup early on in the year for them. Really looking forward to that. The Ravens taking on the Tennessee Titans is the third international game. This one will be on October 15th at 9:30 a.m. as well. Recurring theme there with the time, very early morning start games. Love to see it because as somebody who lives on the East Coast, I don't get to experience the 9 or 10 o'clock starts that people on the West Coast get to have with football games. I've always envied that. So to be able to have that for myself, pretty exciting. But this will be at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London as well, once again on the NFL Network, so hopefully as well on NFL Plus. You have Lamar Jackson recently re-signed to a massive extension. Obviously, the signing of Odell Beckham as well brings a lot of excitement to that offense over there. Going up against the Tennessee Titans, who have Will Levis, probably not going to be starting at this point, or maybe he does, who knows? In maybe some crazy world, he wins the starting job, and maybe it's the Will Levis-led Titans. We don't know, but Derrick Henry and company over there. Be interesting to see how this matchup fares, because I feel like the Titans and Ravens kind of have a little bit of a rivalry going on. Their games have been fairly chippy the last few years, especially with some of the playoff matches that they've had over the recent few years. So this is another one really good. Like, again, I feel like they did a really good job, the NFL did, with setting up all of their international games. You have a lot of like A+ swings, I guess the down game. And this is not to discredit Falcons or Jaguars or anything like that, but I feel like out of all these games, the least intriguing to me is like Jaguars and Falcons. But beyond that, like the rest of these games all have either historic rivalries, really good quarterback matchups, or just team matchups altogether. And the fourth one on the international list here, we can keep getting into, again, really good matchups. The Miami Dolphins taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, the Tua-led Dolphins, Patrick Mahomes-led Chiefs. They asked this game to be protected. And now we have Tyreek Hill taking on his former team, not in Arrowhead, but in London. This is one that I've seen a lot of people questioning, and I was kind of scratching my head about as well. But apparently the Chiefs were asking for this game to be protected, assuming they wanted it to be like a really good matchup for them. I don't really understand that, but it's going to be in Frankfurt Stadium in Germany. This one is on November 5th at 9:30 a.m. Once again, NFL Network is where you can find it. I feel like the NFL kind of missed on this one here. Again, really great matchup, but the opportunity to have Tyreek Hill play in the Chiefs stadium in front of a Chiefs crowd would have been a really exciting thing to watch. Regardless, he is still going up against his former team, and you have a Miami's Dolphin team right now that feels like they are locked and loaded and ready to roll. Obviously, a lot of people have been concerned about the health of Tua, but it sounds like he's confident in the way he's going to be able to play this year. So hopefully all goes well for him and he stays healthy and the concussion troubles are behind him. But this is, again, another game that has a lot of AFC playoff implications on the line here, as the Dolphins, prior to Tua Tagovailoa going down, were a legitimate playoff team, and they were very much in the running to earn themselves a spot to potentially maybe even win the division, because they brought it to the Bills. I mean, this Dolphins team, if all goes well, is a legit contender. And then you obviously have the reigning Super Bowl champion Chiefs. A lot of implications there. And then the final international game, this will be on November 12th. Again, same time, 9:30, Frankfurt Stadium in Germany. So 2 games in Germany this year. We have the Indianapolis Colts being hosted by the New England Patriots. Kind of a rebirth of a rivalry that is not really a rivalry anymore, back in when you look back to the days of like the Peyton Manning versus Tom Brady thing, but still some animosity between the two teams from all of that history. And then there was the Deflategate and all that. So there's obviously a lot that goes into these two teams matching up against each other. The question now being, is, at least if you're a New England fan, is Mac Jones the guy? How is his team going to look with an improved defense? And on top of that, adding a few pieces here and there to the offense that may or may not be significant enough to maybe push this team over the hump. But it feels like, the Patriots are going all in on defense, winning you a championship. That's kind of the gist of what I'm getting at least from them. Whereas you have the Colts bringing in a new quarterback in Anthony Richardson. I'm really excited about seeing him and how he pans out over there. You have a defense that's been pretty solid, but dealing with a lot of injuries, and an offensive line that has been fairly questionable after being very dominant the few years prior. So there'll be some things to watch, as you have quite an interesting matchup, because the Patriots are one of those teams that can overwhelm you defensively, and it's going to be a tall task for the Colts to handle them. But a game that, while I don't want to say has like high stakes playoff implications on the line, I could see, if all goes well for the Patriots, them fighting for a number 7 seed, and the Colts being a kind of a wild card with a rookie quarterback. You could be a team that sits at the bottom, and maybe you're picking, in the top 5 again next year, or maybe Anthony Richardson surprises, he catches on quick, and ultimately maybe you're battling for that number 7 spot in the AFC. But a game that I think could, at the very best, have themselves a matchup that has something to do with what that number 7 seed looks like in the AFC. Now, as for the holiday games, so those are the international games. We got 3 big holiday games to look at here. And the first one is a first for the NFL, the Black Friday game. This will be the day after Thanksgiving, and this is a really fun matchup here. Again, the NFL hit on a lot of these, if not pretty much all of them. The Dolphins heading into New York on Black Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. That's November 24th at MetLife Stadium. This one will be on Amazon Prime Video, so even though it's not on Friday, or excuse me, it's not on Thursday, it's still going to be an Amazon Prime game. So kind of an extension, I guess, for them to get this game here. But you have Aaron Rodgers, new to the AFC East. At this point, you're fairly far into the season, so I'm assuming some type of a playoff implication-based matchup where, again, the AFC East is pretty loaded right now. You have a proven team in the Bills, a Dolphins team that looked really good prior to Tua going down, and now a New York Jets team that felt like they were just a quarterback away from having a legitimate push into the playoffs last year. Now you've got Aaron Rodgers and some of the new pieces they brought in there and people coming back like Breece Hall from his injury, which honestly was kind of like he was like the engine to the offense, it felt like, before he went down. So I think him coming back into the fold as well is going to be massive. This is a very fun game. Again, NFL doing an excellent job landing on some of these. Next, we're looking at Christmas time. This one, December 25th at 4:30 p.m. from Lincoln Financial Field. The Philadelphia Eagles will host the New York Giants, an NFC classic rivalry, a game that I don't think ever really disappoints, and you never really know what you're going to get from them. This is as heated of a rivalry as they come in the NFL, a very storied rivalry at that. You obviously have Jalen Hurts with, there is just, I could sit here and just list off all of the talent that they have over there in Philadelphia, but the reigning NFC champions, the runner-up for the Super Bowl, going up against a New York Giants team who has gone all in on Daniel Jones. You have Saquon Barkley back on the franchise tag. You've added some pieces to the wide receiver room. Defense was pretty good last year, and you've retained some of your top talent, adding extensions as well where necessary. This will be a good one. And honestly, one of those prove it type of games, I think, for the Giants. Have they finally figured it out and found a recipe for success under Brian Daboll, or are the Eagles going to continue their dominance in the NFC East as they make a run to try to get back to the Super Bowl and right the wrongs of their failure last year? And then this one is like, I love the rivalry that's brewing between these two teams. On New Year's Eve, the NFL is putting on their own party. 4:25 p.m. Eastern Time, December 31st. This game will be on CBS. You have yourselves the Cincinnati Bengals heading into Arrowhead, where they have no trouble winning games, and going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. This is a rivalry that has been growing the last few years, as the Bengals seemed to have the Chiefs number all the way up until they finally lost to them this past year in the playoffs. This is one where it's as heated as they come. Zach Taylor was seen mouthing "it's rigged" on camera during the game, during the playoff game that they had earlier in the year. And this, again, you have Joe Burrow, you have Patrick Mahomes, really good wide receiver corps over there with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon's over there. Then you look at what the Chiefs have. Travis Kelce, Isaiah Pacheco was a massive addition for them in the draft last year. And then the other guys that are slowly emerging, and who else may emerge. I mean, there's a lot of potential upside with this Chiefs offense. Again, bringing in Kadarius Toney last year. Sky Moore was good in some spots. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is kind of like he's the de facto go-to guy in big situations, the sure-handed guy at that. And then both teams with really good defenses as well. Talk about a marquee matchup for Week 17. You love to see it. Like I said, the NFL did an excellent job with setting up these games here for the holidays and the international games. I really have no complaints about any of them. My only real head scratcher is, why wasn't Tyreek Hill allowed to play the Chiefs for a homecoming game in Arrowhead? That's probably the only matchup that I look at here and I go, you kind of missed on that, but it's still a great game overall, especially to bring overseas. And when you're trying to grow the sport of NFL football in the world, you want to bring really good matchups to those areas. So I can't really fault them for doing something like that. But for me as an NFL fan and a person who likes good stories, I would have liked to seen Tyreek Hill going into Arrowhead to play his old team. But that's like my one gripe about everything. And on top of that, again, not to knock the Falcons and the Jaguars matchup, but I would have liked to see the Jaguars maybe play someone that's a little higher up on the list of competitive teams. But who knows? Maybe the Falcons surprise and they end up being in it. Maybe Bijan Robinson sparks some life into this team. Desmond Ridder shows improvement. I could be overlooking this matchup, but that's probably like my least favorite of all the, 8 that we just went over here. But let me know in the comment section down below, what are you most excited about? How do you feel about these games? Any misses, any games that you wish you could have seen, things like that, thoughts and opinions on all of them. My favorite matchup personally here, honestly, is probably that New Year's Eve game. I'm a Colts fan, so yeah, I'm excited to see the Colts and Patriots play overseas, whatever. But at the end of the day, you cannot deny that rivalry that's brewing between Cincinnati and Kansas City, and I'm all here for it. And especially for it to be like an end-of-the-year banger type of game, I'm there for it. But I appreciate you if you made it to the end of the video. Again, thoughts and opinions, fire away in that comment section down below. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on all the other content. We do NFL stuff here, USFL stuff here, all that and more. But that is it for me. Appreciate you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all next time. Have a good one.